Rav Shlita, Rabbanim, Beis Harav, and all the Talmidim and Talmidim. Of the great neshama that we are remembering tonight. Perhaps we all share the same question. Why was I asked to speak here tonight? In fact, you're hearing one voice, but there are two who are speaking. I and my dear Chava, Pinchas Katzinski. I think that there's a Gemara that was in the mind of those who asked me to be here tonight. The Gemara Mesechtes Mayit Katan says, Ha'omed al meis b'shas yitzias neshama chayiv likroa lemazeh domer l'sefer Torah shenisrach chayiv likroa. Pinchas and I had the zechus to be Harav Broya Zecher Tzadik Livracha's last appointment. Our appointment was at 5 o'clock, and he took ill that evening and was nifta on Shabbos. To some degree, we constitute that ha'omed al meis b'shas yitzias neshama. The Mekubalim say that the reason for the minhag of someone davening for the Amid Matzah Shabbos on the week of a Yatzai is because the Neshama Yisera leaves for the very last time on Matzah Shabbos. A person is nifta, the Mekubalim say, in stages. There are parts of the Neshama that take leave. From the aspect of Habatzas HaTorah and Limud HaTorah with young Talmidim, perhaps we were at a Yitzias Neshama. And we were chayiv in a kriya of sorts. I think that that was the basis of my invitation to speak here tonight. But once I've mentioned that Gemara, let me share my memories and thoughts with you. The Rambam concludes begins Perik Vav of Hilchis Yisodei HaTorah with the following halacha: Kol ha'ma'abei shem min hashemos hakadoshim hatahorim shenikra behem hakadosh baruch hu loke min haTorah. He who destroys or expunges one of the sanctified and pure names of HaKadosh Baruch Hu receives Malchus. That's the halacha that begins Yisodei HaTorah, Perik Vav. It follows a totally incongruous halacha. The last halacha of Perik Hey is the halacha of how a Talmid Chacham is supposed to conduct himself. The halacha reads, if you find the Talmid Chacham who lives Lifnim Mishuras Hadin, At Sheyimtzu Hakol Mikaltzin Oso, all praise him, Va'ohavim Oso, and love him, Umisavim Lama'asa, Hareze Kidesh Hashem, Va'olov HaKosiv Omer, the Pasuk says, Vayomer Li Avdi Ata Yisrael Asher B'cha Espo'a. The conclusion of Perik Hey is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu says there is an individual. Mit wem ich stolziere. There's a person who I am proud of, and I demonstrate my teachings through him. What is the connection between that halacha and the following halacha of Kol HaMa'abei Shem Min Hashemos HaKadoshim? Rashi says that the reason that we tear our garments when we stand over the passing of a Jew is because every Jew is a Sefer Torah. Rashi on the Rip says, Adayin ha'yazeh yochol lilmod v'hava Sefer Torah. This person could have been a Sefer Torah. This person could have learned more, and therefore he is a Sefer Torah. The Ramban explained that just like a Sefer Torah is comprised of a klaf and azkaros, the parchment and the words that spell HaKadosh Baruch Hu's holy names, so the neshama is the askaros on the guf. And when a person is nifta, the askaros leave the guf, like a Sefer Torah that's burning. When you erase a word of a Sefer Torah, when you erase Hashem's name from a Sefer Torah, that is an ultimate chilul Hashem. And when a Sefer Torah lives, when a human being metamorphosizes into a Sefer Torah, then that's a levitic Sefer Torah that the Gemara Makis says deserves kavod, the kal v'chomer. So the two parakim of the Rambam are in fact related. There's the living Sefer Torah of Perek Hey, the Avdi Asher B'chayes Pa, and then there is the physical Sefer Torah that someone may not erase the names of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in that Sefer Torah. But if every Yid who could learn Torah is a Sefer Torah, we know that there are differences between Sifrei Torah. We know that there are Sifrei Torah and there are Sifrei Torah. The Gemara in Masechta Sotah says, Amar Rav Chonin ba Bizna, Amar Rav Shimon Chasida, Yosef shekidei Shem Shamayim b'Seiser, Zacha v'hosifolo os achas mishmo shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Diksiv Eidus b'Yosa. There's a hey that's added to Yosef's name, and that hey represents HaKadosh Baruch Hu Kaviyachol. Because Yosef was Mikadesh Shem Shamayim b'Seiser. There are those who, in a more demonstrative and in an exhibitionistic way, demonstrate a sense of love to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And then there is that Mikadesh Shem Shamayim that the Rambam says, Kol haporesh me'aveira osa mitzvah, lo mipnei dava ba'olam. He who abstains from an aveira or performs a mitzvah for no other reason, lo pachad v'lo yira, not because of fear, not because of terror, v'lo levakesh kavod, and not in the pursuit of honor, ela mipnei haborei baruch hu, ki minias Yosef hatzadik atzmo me'eshes rabo. In the inner sanctum of one's life, one is the Mikadesh Shem Shamayim B'Seiser, that's the Midah of Yosef. And therefore Yosef was Zocher to an extra hay. And therefore the Rambam selects Yosef from all as the Mikadesh Shem Shamayim. There is a Sefer Torah and there's a Sefer Torah. And the difference between the Sifrei Torah lie in the sofer. Who wrote this Sefer Torah and who wrote another Sefer Torah? Who wrote the Sefer Torah that we call Rav Yosef Breuer? I think there were two sofrim. I think there was his extraordinary grandfather, Rav Shamshon Raphael Hirsch, who we heard so much about tonight from the Rav Shlita and from the Novominsker Rebbe Zol Zayin Gesund. And his father, Hagoyin Rav Shlomo Breuer, Zecher Tzadik Levracha. Two sofrim wrote and composed this Sefer Torah. It's unlike any other Sefer Torah of its time. The Gemara in Bava Basra says, Zikenim sheba'osa da amru pnei Moshe kipnei Chama, pnei Yeshua kipnei Levana. And the Rashbam explains, why was it Zikenim sheba'osa da? Shera'u Moshe v'Yehoshua. The Zikanim who saw Moshe and Yeshua were able to make comparisons. People from a different dog, people from a different generation cannot even assume or presume to assess the gedolim of previous daughters. But since we glean something from them, we reflect and we ask, who wrote the Sefer Torah and what does it say in the Sefer Torah? If you ask me what I think it says in that Sefer Torah, if you take everything together, if I had to say it in one sentence, I would say that the Sefer Torah of Rav Breuer, that was written by his grandfather and father, the Sefer Torah says, Kavod HaTorah. The Sefer Torah says, Kavod. Rashi tells us that there are two kinds of kavod. The Mishnah in Masechta Sota says, Mishameis Rabbi Akiva, Botel Kavod HaTorah. When Rabbi Akiva was nifta, Kavod HaTorah was expired. Kishameis Rabban Gamliel, Botel Kavod HaTorah. How could Kavod HaTorah become bottled twice? So Rashi explains that the Kavod HaTorah of Rav Gamliel was that in his times, till his times, people would learn Torah standing. And after his times, people had become weakened. And they just couldn't manage to learn in a standing state. So they'd have to sit. The Kavod HaTorah until Rav Gamliel's time was the Kavod of standing for the Torah. What was the Kavod HaTorah of Rabbi Akiva's? So Rashi says, Shahaya Lomeid V'Doresh Kol Koitz V'Koitz. He learned every single word of Torah, and he darshened halachas from every single word. Ein Kavod HaTorah Gadol Mizeh. There is no greater Kavod HaTorah. There is a Kavod HaTorah that is exterior Kavod HaTorah. I won't call it superficial Chalila, but it's on the exterior, where someone stands and rises for the Torah, where someone builds a beautiful Aron Kodesh to put the Sefer Torah in. That is a Kavod HaTorah mibachutz. If you see a beautiful shas that's bound in leather, it's Kavod HaTorah. But there is one more Kavod HaTorah, a shas that's ripped, a shas that has a broken binding because it's been so used. Ein Kavod HaTorah Gadol Mizeh. Rav Breuer Zecher Tzadik Livracha taught a world that there are two kinds of Kavod HaTorah. There was his personal Kavod HaTorah of growing into the Gaon that he was. And there was the Kavod HaTorah that he taught all of us, how to relate to a Sefer Torah, how to relate to halacha. These are the two Kavod HaTorahs that are written in this Sefer Torah. And I believe that these two Kavod HaTorahs constitute Torah in their cheretz. Torah in its essence and their cheretz on the exterior of the Torah, that hugs and embraces the Torah from the outside. The last two nights, for those who have that additional tefillah for Sfiras HaOmer, was Chesed Shebetiferes and then Gevura Shebetiferes. I'm not mechaven to be Yosef. And later others will say Netzach Shebetiferes. Tiferes is the midah that blends Chesed and Gevura. Chesed is beneficence, bounteous good, unbounded, unrestricted. Gevura means strength. It means limitation. It means to know when to say no. Gedarim. There is a midah of chesed that can be overdone, and there's a midah of gevura that can be overdone. And when they're both blended in perfect harmony, then you have tiferes. Yaakov Avinu was tiferes because he took his father's and his grandfather's two midos and blended them together. And that tiferes will have a netzach because it was taught in the form of a Sefer Torah. Rabbeinu Bechaya teaches us Minik Chasidim Shebetzofas. Sha'osim mishulchanam aron l'kvura. They would take their table, and the tabletop would be removed, and it would be used as the aron for kvura. Sitting at Rav Breuer's desk, at that last appointment, in figurative manner, what could that desk tell as an aid to an aron? How much Torah, how much emes, how much chesed, how much kavod haTorah, how much netzach shebet tiferes. The Chafetz Chaim was nispat by his Talmud Rav Elchanan Wasserman, who related at the Levaya what Rabbi Kiva Eger said on the Vilna Gaon. What constitutes a Gadol Hadar? A Gadol Hadar is a person who, when he takes leave of his dar, seals a dar. Lo haniach achav kemosav. I was thinking, Vayamos Yosef v'chol echav v'chol hadar hahu. There are certain Gedolim who, when they pass, they seal an epic in history. Those are men, historical figures. As a child, he saw his grandfather once, and his grandfather said to him, Habeit bi va'al tishkecheni. Look at me and never forget me. Oh, did he listen? The Siyum was just made on Shas. And the words that are read are Hadran Allah. And there's a machlokes what Hadran Allah means. The conventional translation that the Sefer HaTishbi writes is Hadran from Lashon Lahader, to run after. Hadran Allah v'hadrach alon. May you return to us and may we return to you. But the Maral of Prague had a brother, Rav Chaim, who gave another translation, that Hadran came from the Lashon Hidur, beauty. The Hidur of Shas is upon you, and your beauty is upon Shas. As the memories of Rav Breuer return to us, they memories of events, but he really doesn't need memories, because he's here. Netzach Shabbat Tiferes. Hadrach Alon. Your beauty sits and resides on this Kehillah. V'hadrach Alon. And your beauty he took with him. So Lazayna Guta Beta. A Melitz Tov for all those who followed in his footsteps and had the wisdom to hearken to his words and take with them his unspoken message, Habeit bi v'al tishkecheni.